What's up, everybody? It's Jeffrey Lyles. You're listening to Lyles Movie Files. Tonight I'm breaking down NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day. And we've had St. Valentine's Day Massacre. We've had Vengeance. They just decided to throw them all into one TakeOver special. While the title's kind of sketchy, the show was amazing. So much great stuff. I think the bottom point of these takeovers in the last year was when Karrion Kross beat my boy Keith Lee for the title. Just kind of sent everything in a tailspin. Fortunately, the black and gold brand, has got the ship straight. Things are so much better, and it is definitely the highlight of the three WWE brands. So let's take a look at this show. We started off with the finals of the Dusty Classic for the women, and that was Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez versus Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon. Now, this match was really unusual because it kind of flipped the whole hot tag with the heel team and the face team dynamic, where it was more of a case where the faces were the ones who were being very methodical, wearing down Dakota Kai, who was kind of basically playing Ricky Morton, and Raquel Gonzalez was just sitting on the side waiting for the hot tag, because when she was in, she dominated, and then finally they took out the smaller and weaker opponent, and it was just this matter of keeping her on the sidelines. Really interesting twist on this. Now, there were a couple of botches, a couple of times where they had some miscommunication, but I really didn't care because I was invested in both of these teams. This was kind of a holdover from War Games, where we had half of the teams facing off against each other in the tournament final. And it was really a case where either one winning would have made sense. If Shotzi and Ember Moon won, then you've got obvious people to go against Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, because you got the heel face dynamic. But also, if Gonzalez and Kai win, this rewards Kai for kind of holding it down in the division for so long. Gonzalez is on a hot streak. She's dominated the division with everybody she's fought, and they're basically the only consistent core tag team in NXT's women division. So I like this. I like the idea of these two teams going against each other. I thought the match over delivered. It exceeded my expectations. It was a lot of fun. I read some complaints that people thought it went a little too long, but I don't know. I liked the way it was this real back and forth and give and take between the two teams. And I think they made the right call, giving the win, the trophy, and the number one slot for the women's tag team titles to Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. This keeps their momentum going, and I think, honestly, just the way the situations work out better in NXT. An NXT women's tag team makes more sense than a brand that travels throughout on SmackDown, Raw, maybe occasionally comes to NXT. Because I think they have more tag teams, more natural tag teams than other divisions. So hopefully we'll get to see them take the belts and start to do more stuff going forward. But yeah, I'm a big fan of this match and was really like, this was a great way to start the show. What's next? And then they really delivered even more so, because we got Johnny Gargano defending his North American Championship against Kishida. Gargano has been notorious for winning titles and then promptly losing them in his first defense. And now he's got the way, and he's really won me over being this obnoxious jerk heel leader of a faction with Candice LeRae, Austin Theory, and I love this whole dynamic of the way. And this time, Dexter Lumis very sneakily grabs Austin, and Johnny is like, whoa, 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 where's my boy to do my non-looking high five with? And he sends the rest of them to the back to find him. And I like this because it's one-on-one. And occasionally when there's a new faction, it's all about everybody interfering to help each other win. And this time we're going to see Johnny defend the title on his own, or he's going to lose it because he can't handle the pressure of doing it by himself without anybody else to help him. So we got that story. And Kushida is just, I thought when they signed Kishida that was such a big coup for NXT, because they were going to waste him on SmackDown or Raw. And NXT is basically their wrestling brand, and they don't need really strong promos. And I think what NXT has done that that really is something that should be done throughout wrestling. They don't try to make Kushida speak in English. They have him talk. Occasionally they'll talk in English, but they'll just use subtitles. Let him talk in his natural language, and it makes so much more sense because the promos sound cooler because he's not trying to sound like he's everything's scripted based off of what he's comfortable saying. And these two have really good chemistry in this build up. They've set it up well. Dexter Lumis has kind of had Kushida's back, and Gargano just has to deal with Kushida on his own. This was really good. Two guys going back and forth. Two guys kind of at their top of their game right now. So many counters, so much fun, and so many opportunities where it looked like, yeah, he's about to lose this belt or he's about to win the belt. And I just love when Gargano's on. I feel like he is not so much put onto a lower level, but I think he's been kind of in this, I don't need to break my arm, my back, my neck to do these crazy spectacle matches. And I think this was one where he wasn't doing that. Wasn't a lot of crazy spots, just good wrestling. And these two were able to tell a good story of one trying to overcome the other and showing who has a superior submission move. And, you know, you had this story with the arm, and both of them trying to go after each other's arm and show who's going to break it for real. And it was just really good. Gargano actually gets the clean win this time, which I also think is important because you want to have your heels occasionally win matches on their own without their, faction stablemates and not having to cheat. Because it shows that, hey, you could do this all the time. Why do you have to resort to relying on these people? So that was good. Really strong match. So for me, we're 2 for 2 with NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day. Next up, we get the classic Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic Finals with the Grizzled Young Veterans versus MSK. I'm still very much confused as to why the third member of the Rascals didn't make it. But one thing I have loved about the portrayal of MSK on NXT, they have not faked. They didn't bring them out as this hot new team and have them lose in the first round. They've won all their matches getting up here to the finals, obviously. And they've set them up in a way where they can be the hot new tag team in NXT, getting a shot at Oney and Lorcan and Danny Burch. And now they've just got to beat the GYV. I don't like GYV because I think they're such a great classic heel tag team. They don't do anything likable. They beat teams that you're rooting for. And I think they're such a cool throwback because they're not trying to win fans. They don't do anything cool. They're really obnoxious with the promos, and they don't have that, oh man, that was so cool, we really like that move. It's just, they're bad guys, they're heels, and they're just annoying. And so I love watching them in terms of wrestling. I hate them in terms of how often they win their matches. And I felt like watching this, yeah, they're probably going to let GYV get this one because they lost last year to the Broserweights. And this is like their make good. And this one was, oh my gosh, it was such a great, blend of skill sets and how they played with each other. They had such good chemistry. GYV wrestled, and they started doing some uncharacteristic, like aerial maneuvers, while MSK started getting more like ground and pound, aggressive and fired up. And it was really strong in the way they were going back and forth. And I was like, all right, come on, y'all got to let MSK win, right? And GYV had several opportunities where it looked like they had it. They did a freaking doomsday device on the outside, really well executed. MSK is one of those teams where they have so much high-flying maneuvers where you kind of wonder if they start botching, kind of like old school Sabu, if it would derail their matches. And so far, in their matches on NXT, they have not missed a beat. They've been right on top of their moves, and everything looks really crisp. And Wesley really came off well in this match. He looked like a superstar. And I know it's way too early to start talking about splitting them up. Hopefully that's way down the road. But he's somebody I could really see them pushing really hard and to the moon later. So they actually get the win, and this was really, really good stuff. And I'm impressed that they let a new team come in, put the rocket to them, And the best thing about them winning, they kind of had an easier road to the finals than GYV. So their teams like Champa and Thatcher that they can fight, because that'll be a hard hitting one. We're still not really sure which side are they faces, they heels. So we don't know which way they're gonna go. That would be a good matchup. GYV, of course, in a rematch. The tag champs naturally, undisputed era, and we know after the show that that is very much a different matchup at this point. Lots of opportunities, and I think now is probably the time for a tag title switch, and that way they can put MSK all the way to the top. And yeah, I'm excited. They brought in a new team, put the showcase, put the spotlight on them, and let them win. And they delivered too. It wasn't so much a thing of like, oh well, they're pushing them and they're just gonna come through. They look good, they delivered, and it felt like the right call. So definitely enjoyed that. And we get a video package with Cameron Grimes, who I think is probably like such a smart, actually timely thing for the WWE in general. They're taking advantage of the GameStop stocks, and now Grimes is super loaded and he's got a ton of money. And he was already obnoxious, but now an obnoxious guy with money makes him even more money. So he's going to be great, and I can't wait to see where all they go with this. Eventually, he's going to, of course, lose all that money, and then he'll be back to being the poor guy who's obnoxious. But Cameron Grimes is really good at what he does, and I can't wait to see all the directions, all the angles they go with him in the future, with him being this rich guy now. Maybe he'll have a bodyguard, maybe he'll start paying off people. Who knows? Sky is really the limit with him, because he can make anything work. He's one of those guys. He can take 20 losses and still come off bulletproof, still come off like a threat. And I just can't wait to see what they do with him next. So next up, we have the NXT Women's Title match. Champion Io Shirai defends against Mercedes Martinez and Toni Storm. This was the one match I wasn't excited about. I feel like I would have rather seen Io versus Toni Storm, since they have that established beef where Storm's like the one opponent that Io can't beat, or Mercedes versus Io. Basically, I did not want to see a triple threat at this point. But just the way the card laid out, this was the one triple threat. We had 2 tag teams, and then we had 3 singles matches. So it made sense to do this triple threat, and there was enough established beef between the 3 of them that it kind of worked. It's just the layout of the triple threats. You know, at this stage, it's kind of played out. 2 of them will fight, one will rest up for a bit, and back, so forth and so forth. And I feel like we needed a little bit more hatred between Martinez and Storm to really sell those moments when Io was the one on the sidelines. It was more of a thing of, hey, you're costing me this shot at the championship. Not so much, I hate you and I can't stand you. So this one was probably the one match that was okay. Like, it wasn't bad, it wasn't terrible or awful. Like, if it was the main event of a regular NXT on Wednesday, I'd feel like, oh, it was a pretty good match. But I think the way it was positioned on this show, in between so many good matches, it worked out just fine. And Io retains the title, which was good, because I hate the triple threats where the champ loses the title and they don't take the pinfall. See, when Charlotte lost the title. But Io continues on her reign. I'm curious where they go with Io now. If it's a case where she's going to go against Toni Storm, because she was not the one that took that fall, and Storm then goes on to beat her. But I don't know who else is left for Io to fight. So maybe that's Taya if she comes in now to NXT. That's interesting. But I'm not sure if I want to see Taya as a heel, because I feel like they've kind of got that blonde, sturdy wrestler already in Toni Storm. We'll see what happens. But this was okay. Not my favorite. Definitely my least favorite of the entire show. But this, again, is just a case that the rest of it was so exceptional. Then our boy Eli Drake finally comes to NXT, and he is now known as LA Knight. I have been a fan of Eli Drake ever since he debuted on Impact/TNA, when he started hanging out with Drew McIntyre and helping him out. His promos were immediately so much better than Drew McIntyre. I was like, oh wow, this guy seems like a star. And so I've been following him with interest since then. I think he does pretty well. He's not he's not going to give you that 5-star match, but he's a good personality. And I think he's a guy like Cameron Grimes whose ability to talk and cut really good promos will always make him a threat. He's somebody I could see jumping right ahead to become a challenger for the NXT championship. I don't want to spoil it yet in case you haven't watched this all already. Soon though. Next up, the NXT championship. Finn Balor versus Piton. I have been a huge fan of Finn Balor / Prince Devitt when on the Wrestle Figures board they started showing pictures of this guy who was dressed up in Venom, Carnage face paint. I was like, who is this dude? This stuff looks cool. And I was like, hey, what's this Bullet Club that he's part of? So I kind of started becoming a fan of his right before he left to come to NXT. And they did right by him pretty much right away. Much like MSK, they had a direction, they had a vision. He's going to be the focal point of our promotion. And when he got the title, he was the man. He was a fighting champ. Really held NXT he brought NXT up to a new level. Much like Charlotte, Sasha, Becky, Bayley, and he ushered in like the new generation where it wasn't so much just this development territory, but the third established brand in WWE. And I felt when he came up to the quote-unquote main roster, they had the right idea, making him the first ever Universal Champion. He got injured, and then it was kind of like, we don't trust this dude anymore. And then he was kind of stuck in the Intercontinental title picture and just becoming this smiling, preening idiot who never really won anything. Came back to NXT, had an attitude like Prince Devitt, and he had a chip on his shoulder, which I think is what he needed, 2020, 2021. And he's done nothing short of deliver great matches on takeovers or just regular shows since then. It's like, yeah, this is the guy who was doing it in NXT, the guy who we hadn't seen on Raw or SmackDown, and now he's back to rule this kingdom. Pete Dunne has been somebody who I started off kind of not sure about, but really have come in the last year or so to appreciate how good he is. And this is one of those deals where it's like, which way are they going to go? Because Balor has held the title for a second. He's held off some really strong challenges from Kyle O'Reilly. Pete Dunne is probably the next guy in line who should get a shot, but maybe they want to do this thing where Dunne takes the title from Balor. Then O'Reilly beats Dunne. Then we get the match where O'Reilly has to prove himself against Balor in defending the title against him. So many directions. And Balor can have a good long feud with Pete Dunne if they want that. So it was like, okay, where are they going to go? And Dunne and his cronies have already started banging out on Balor's arm and his fingers. So he's kind of coming in a little vulnerable. And he also has that established issue now with his jaw. And I love the idea of a champ having some vulnerability in every match where people can always target this. Like, hey, I'm going to go after your knee, but I know I can go after your jaw, or I can go after your shoulder because you have issues with them. Those are established issues. Love that. And Balor started going, okay, we're going to go there. I'm going to go after your knee. I like that because there were lots of moves in Pete Dunne's arsenal. Like there's so many moves that he has that require him to use his legs, his knees, and his suplexes, his finishers, so many things. Like even the double stomp on the hands. So smart strategy from him. Lots of triangle holds. Everything. It was another. It wasn't so much like the Gargano and Kishida match, but it had enough differences that they could play the submission game. I got you. I'm going to out wrestle you. I'm going to get through this submission. And what I'm enjoying now about these modern NXT submission focused matches, they're not boring. They're not just sitting there, resting. They're like actively trying to get out of the move. Like, hold up. I got to get out of here. I got to get out. It's a strain. It's a struggle. And that's the biggest difference between somebody just sitting in a chokehold for a minute, a headlock for 5 minutes, and nothing exciting is happening. And there were so many times during this match where I was like, I think Dunne's about to win this Joker. And, and he hit that bitter end. I was like, well, that's it. He has destroyed his fingers, his hands, and he's hit his finisher. That's it. And then Finn popped out and hits a power bomb. Gets his John Woo. I mean, it was just so much cool stuff going on. It was a nice back and forth between these two guys, and it was really a case of, well, whoever's going to win is actually going to deserve it. And when we get this champion, or whoever wins, will deserve to have been the champ. Finn actually comes back. He does his thing. He takes out Piton's mouthpiece, hits him with a drop kick to the face, which was cool because it's like, he's been going after Finn's jaw this time, but without the mouthpiece, he's vulnerable all of a sudden in the mouth. He hits the coup de grace, and he already knows that that's not enough to get the win. And I like this because, yeah, I hit you with this move, and instead of wasting time going with the dramatic, oh, I can't believe he kicked out of my finisher, let me cry for 2 minutes, he just immediately hits the 1916 and then gets the pin. So Finn retains his title, and yet another cool notch in this Finn Balor reign. And they've already talked about how he's just been on a tear on takeovers in general. Unlike Johnny, who is in a ton of takeovers, Balor has a winning record. He's only lost one time. And that one time was when he was on his way out, and he had to lose to Shinsuke Nakamura. But that wasn't it for this show. So Oni and Larkin come out. They attack Finn. So it's a 3-on-1, and Finn is, of course, wiped out. Can't do anything. And after a pretty long beatdown, the Undisputed Era come out. So it's O'Reilly, Cole, Roddy come out, and they save him, run off Piton and his crew. And Kyle is like doing this whole, yo, I respect you, I still respect you, you respect me. Hey, it's all about mutual respect here. And so he pulls him up, and then it kind of sort of seems like Kyle was potentially going, hey, you're on your own. Maybe you want to be with us, be part of Undisputed Era. And so they all line up like maybe we're going to see Finn, instead of throwing up the guns, throw up the UE. And just when Finn puts his guns out, Adam Cole hits him with a super kick. And it is one of those, whoa, this is surprising. And I know how everybody knows everything that goes on with Angles, of course, because they saw it coming a mile away. But I didn't see it. This was a nice surprise. It was a real shocker. But the real shock to the system, pun so much intended, was when Kyle got in Cole's face and there was no long pause. He just super kicked his boy and laid him out as well. And he leaves the ring and tells Roddy, come on. Roddy sits confused, like, which way am I going? And it ends before Roddy makes his decision. So much good TV on that because it leaves a suspense. It's a cliffhanger. Which way is Roddy going? Is this the end of the Undisputed Era? Was just this some Cole being frustrated? Will he and Kyle make good? And what is Finn Balor going to do next? What happens next is what makes this show so good, because the best shows like Music City Showdown, Great American Bash 89 leave you with that question of, oh my gosh, this was a good show, but what is going to happen in the aftermath? And this aftermath has so much potential. I am stoked, so excited to think about what they can do next. So I started thinking, of course, because I'm so much of a short time sideline couch booker. So I started thinking it up. Lots of angles. Obvious one is Roddy goes with Adam Cole, and while Bobby Fish is on the sideline, we get the tag team match. Fish. We have Roddy Cole versus Balor, Kyle O'Reilly. They feud, and then they ultimately win the feud. O'Reilly goes, all right, so now we've teamed up. I just need one more favor. I need one more shot at the title. And then Kyle gets the belt, and I don't know what they do with Balor next, but then Kyle gets to become the champ for a while. Then he fights Adam Cole, and they defend it. Maybe that's when Cole gets the belt back. Who knows? Or this is one because I've watched too much 90s wrestling. Maybe this is a long-term setup by the UE. And, they really have never been faces. They were kind of put in this position because Pat McAfee ran his mouth too much. And, they've been doing this good guy thing. But they realized that being good guys doesn't really pay off for them. I mean, they lost in the Dusty Classic. and they lost to a mixed match team that had never really teamed before. So maybe being the good guys, maybe being the better people doesn't work. A few years back, it wouldn't have been Piton, Oni, and Danny Burch going after Finn Balor. It would have been them. They would have been the ones that hurt Finn and took him out instead of having his back. So maybe all of this has been like this long. Let's earn the trust of Finn Balor, and let's put a sheep in the kingdom, and maybe we set up where Finn goes, hey, I need some help going against your boys. You with me, Kyle? And Kyle's like, of course, I've got your back. They set me up too. And then we get this Sting, Ric Flair from '95. Gosh, it seems so long ago, but it's so fresh in my mind. Where Balor is going after the Undisputed Era of Cole and Strong, and he makes the big tag. And instead of helping, Kyle turns on Balor, and the Undisputed Era stands tall, leaves Balor lame. So then we have our big WrestleMania weekend takeover. Balor versus O'Reilly, who's firmly back to being committed to being a heel. He is right there with the Undisputed Era, and with their help, because he's been such a gracious one-on-one fighter in these first two matches with Balor. With their help, he wins, and he finally gets over that hump, and he's the new champ. And then, because I'm so long term with this booking here, because there's so many different cool ways they could go with this. This is just another suggestion. This is when Finn Balor decides, I've had enough of this foolishness. I've been beaten up by everybody. My boys are on another promotion. I don't have any help. I'm going to go back to the one side that I know will be unstoppable. And this is when Finn Balor decides he's going to become the Demon again. And I think maybe you set this up way out to SummerSlam when O'Reilly versus Balor 4, and it's O'Reilly versus the Demon. I don't know. I'm excited. I'm loving what NXT is doing. I've been flip-flopping back and forth between which show I watched last between NXT and AEW Dynamite. But after this show, I am 100% sure that NXT is going to be the second show that I watch. Yeah. But again, this show was amazing. So many good matches. The worst match was still decent enough that it was okay to watch. And we had two really strong single championship matches, two really good tag team matches, and yeah, I'm trying to think, because we get in this thing where we're ranking every takeover after the last one, and I feel like this one was one of the strongest ones that I've seen, that I enjoyed all of it. I wasn't feeling like, what are you guys doing? This one was just good. Had a good main event, really strong main event, which sometimes isn't always the case with these. Great main event, and sets up so many storylines for the future. And I can't wait to see where they go with this. It's really exciting. Good time to be a fan of NXT. So if you caught it, let me know what you think, because I want to talk about this one with everybody else. So let me know what you think. And thanks for listening to me ramble on about this. I am hoping at some point soon that I can just kind of do more of a breakdown on these Wednesday night shows while we still have a Wednesday night war going on. But yeah, for now, really enjoy this. If you haven't seen the show, check it out. It's well worth it. And let me know what you think. This episode of Lyle's Movie Files has been filed.